song always gets me going and makes me smile, especially when I have a guest like you, Peg. It's so good to see Peg Fitzgerald today. How you doing?
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick, sorry. Fitz, one of my
All
best
right, take
friends
a
is
sip
Joe.
of coffee.
One of
Get
my
coffee.
best friends is Joe Fitzgerald in town. Hey, Joe. Peg Fitzpatrick. Peg,
You
it's
know
so
what?
good to see you.
I get that all the time. For some reason, it's a tongue twister of a last name, and it's very close to lots of other Irish last names. So I totally get it.
I'm just
Hello.
glad you're
Thank you for having me.
I'm just glad that you're here. And it's, look, regardless of, it's funny because before we went live, you and I were talking about we don't really care what they ask us and what they call us as long as they mention our names and as long as they call us, right? It's like we've heard it all before. But I'll tell you about Peg, everybody, because she is truly one of my favorite people in social media.
Mm.
She is truly one of the experts in the social media space and has been for a very, very long time. But don't take my word for it. Okay. Everybody here knows Mr. Guy Kawasaki. Guy was the guy that he thinks he's a surfer in today's world, but we all know Guy from back in the day, sitting next to Steve Jobs, developing the iPhone. And here's what Guy, who wrote the foreword to Peg's book, has to say, quote, "Take it from me. If you're an entrepreneur or small business owner and want to master digital marketing, you need this book." I mean, really, that's all that needs to be said. And the book we're talking about, it's The Art of Small Business Social Media. It's brand new. Peg is the author. Multiple chapters, Peg, that I want to talk to you about with the community. And Peg is also the co-author with Guy Kawasaki of a 2014 book, one of my favorite in the social media spaces, The Art of Social Media, Power Tips for Power Users. So I'm guessing, Peg, a few things have changed over the years. We're going to talk about them. And before we do, I want everyone to please join us, share this out. If you have questions, ask them. And Peg, I'll be bringing the questions in live during the show. So this should be fun. Peg, why don't we start off? Your new book on social media. What motivated you to write it? And what were the primary biggest changes from your book, this year to what you and Guy co-wrote back in 2014?
Good question. So when we wrote The Art of Social Media in 2024, that is, as you said, is Power Tips for Power Users. So that was really, I had intended it initially to be the art and science of social media. And I had a lot more stuff in there. A guy was like, no, let's just do power tips. Like he was like, just give people like, the fast and dirty, because he loves that. And it was great. Like at the time, it was like, yes, these are tips, that you could just take one thing from it, do it. And let's be honest, like people don't read every single book they buy, which is a bummer, but they don't, and they don't read the whole thing, and they're not going to implement the whole thing. Was Guy's theory, and he's right. Like people buy books, they don't read it all. Even like online classes, people buy online classes and they don't finish them a lot. They buy them and it's like that comfort of, well, I got the book, like the book is sitting near me now, like
Right.
by osmosis, I'm just gonna, so that it was the power tips. It was not how to do every single thing. And what I found was over these years is that I keep having small business owners specifically, they don't have the money, they don't have the time, and their expertise is something else in your community. They're attorneys. And so they have other things that make them a lot of money, but they want to do this thing to get more clients. And I have to tell you, my local attorney, shout out Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Adam, he's 100% not watching, but I teased him unmercilessly when he was like the third. You know how they do like the local award kind of deals, and
Sure.
he was like the third most popular attorney. And so
Third?
third, and I gave him so much flack. I'm like, Adam, you could be first. He's like, he was just like, ah. But the point
Yeah,
is, I mean, I teased him about it because it's funny, but also people kind of look at those things, right? A little
sure.
bit, people do. And
Mhm.
so as somebody who would be ranked on something, if that was me being a unfortunately really competitive person, I would be devastated if I was third and I would have to crush number 1 and 2.
Ooh, and would you do that using social media and digital?
Of course.
You know,
That's that's my area of expertise now. And also, if I was the attorney, I would be crushing them in the courtroom. I think he was not like bothered by it. It's not his area of expertise. But I
no.
just was kind of using it as an example of like people who are small business owners, attorneys, florists, dry cleaners,
Mhm.
shop owners. Um, they need people to be able to find them. And we all learned during the pandemic, especially if you were not online, basically you disappeared. You were gone because people couldn't find you, they couldn't reach you. They would go to your business, maybe you were open that day, maybe you weren't open that day. And people's lack of online presence really led to a lot of small businesses to close, which is heartbreaking because that's people's life, that's their money. But more than that, it's like their dream. Like business owners have a dream, they have this thing that they want to do that they're passionate about, and they probably have maybe, once they're built up, they have some people that work for them, so they're like responsible for paying other people. It's not just like a big company, that it's not like, oh, the Sears closed in town or something. It's a lot more personal, but we really get to know the people in our neighborhood, in our communities, and they're important. And we lose, even in big cities, small businesses are everywhere. So losing those pieces of our community, losing a restaurant is a big deal. Like, sure, there's other restaurants, but
Cheers.
that could be your favorite. We had a restaurant that closed like years ago called Armadillo's, the best burritos. Like everything was the guacamole
Nice.
made they were just like phenomenal. They wrapped them up in foil. They were like sweet
Ooh,
potato. They were so good.
I'm thinking Pinterest and Instagram with that one.
I know, right? But yeah, so things have changed. And I think in the past, people
Mhm.
could get away, maybe at first they didn't have a website, maybe at first they didn't do this, maybe at first and now it's at the point where if you have a business, you need to be online because people want to look on their phone or on their computer to see what services they're looking for. Everybody looks
Absolutely.
online now.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Everybody, and Peg, I think also people, what we learned during COVID was that with 5G technology, faster speeds, better video, people would avoid not driving across town to make
Mhm.
a purchase or meet with a professional or a business owner. People like the convenience of being in their running shorts
Yeah.
and business top and appearing in court, whatever it may be. And by the way, everybody, we're talking with Peg Fitzpatrick, This Art of Small Business Social Media. Her book is on the screen for those of you listening to the audio. Look, a lot of people ask me, Peg, why am I doing all this? Why have I been head first in digital really since 1995? It's because I love meeting people, and guess what? It brings business in the door. My
Mhm.
firm has brought in millions and millions and millions of dollars in cases from social media, from people from people finding us, right?
Yes.
And they get to come in, and then we get an opportunity to do what we do. It puts us in front of new clients, and for me, that's the fun part about it. It's not the
Mhm.
business revenue generating part for me. It's because we've already got a good reputation in town. It's about meeting new people around the world and adding value and helping people. Part
Mhm.
of that comes from what you were referring to, and that's where I'm going with this, and that has to do with community. And by the
Mhm.
way, everyone, I see your questions coming in, and we're going to get to them. But you mentioned, in real life communities, but we also have, and you talked about in chapter 10 of your book, cultivating a community online. Maybe share a little bit about in 2024, 2025, how do we build digital communities? What should we be focusing on? What do you see blue collar, donut shop owners, tire store sellers, lawyers, doctors, and accountants doing right and wrong when it comes to building communities on the different digital platforms?
Ooh, that's such a big question. I love it.
That's what I get
So,
paid to do.
ooh, I know. I was like, "Oh, this will be easy." I'm like, "No, it won't." Mitch is an attorney. He
Oh,
can
it's
ask me hard
easy.
questions.
There are no
Um,
wrong answers.
well, sometimes I'm just kidding. So community is, I think, more important than ever because the algorithms have totally screwed us over at this
Yep.
point. Back in
Yep.
the day, you could build a Facebook page, you would have all these people that followed you, and they would actually see the things that you posted. That does not happen anymore, but that's what
I
right? Do you
remember those
remember?
days. I remember those days.
The good old days when you would
Yeah.
build your Facebook page and then that algorithm closed down. Then we all went to Instagram. Instagram was great. Their algorithm was open. You could, people would follow you. Now people don't see what you post, even if they're following you. So it is a lot more challenging. And if you get people that are following you, you have to make sure that you're, providing really good information, because I don't even know how many billions of accounts there are in the world posting stuff. I mean,
Right.
there's probably, in the half hour that we're going to talk, I can't even guess how many things have been posted on just one platform. I mean, the amount of content that people are creating, sharing, posting is huge. So what you're putting out there matters more than ever. And the community that you're building really counts a lot too. In the book, I talk about Canva. When I worked with Canva as a first head of social strategy, Canva was a little teeny baby startup in Australia that no one had heard of, no one was using, but I was secretly using because I loved it. And I was using it to create guys content too. And Canva saw that, and because they were doing social listening, and they saw that I had used it. So they sent Guy an email. So like that's the behind the scenes
Really?
thing.
That's how that connection came
Yeah, so
about.
I'll tell the rest of it since you didn't. So yeah, that's how it happened.
I
So
did not know that.
Canva emailed Guy and said, "Hey, we see that you're using our graphics." And Guy was like, emails me, "Who is this? What are they talking about? Do we like them? Do we want to meet with them?" And I was like, I love them. Guy gets a lot of pitches from a lot of companies
Sure.
all the time. And when I was working for him, he would send stuff to me and say, "Do we want to, is this something we're interested in? Is this good? Like what do we do?" So Canva, I was like obsessed with Canva, and I saw the huge need for it, because at the time, maybe all of you people listening don't know, but there wasn't really an easy way to create things. Photoshop existed, but Photoshop is a lot more time consuming, even just to make a short little social graphic. And yes, there are people who are great at it. Shout out to all of you graphic designers. But then there's a lot of other people like me who needed to make things. I did not have that expertise to. I have taken Photoshop classes, but it just never stuck with me for some reason. But
Yeah.
Canva, I loved. So my first job that I did with them was I needed to really get people interested in what Canva was and what they did and why people should use them. And I was like, social media and bloggers are the exact perfect demographic, because they all need to create graphics. So I started out with visual marketing. This is back in the Google Plus days. Visual marketing was the term that I came up with, and hashtag Canva Love was the community that I created. So Canva Love, which is still being used today and has millions of impressions now, but back then it was just like a hashtag that I actually invented at Guy's house. I like remember so specifically because it was all during our Canva meetings when they were there, and then it was just Guy and I meeting, talking about, okay, like we got to figure out how to get this out to everybody. And it was during Google Plus where I believe I met you first on Google Plus, Mitch.
Could have been. I
I
mean,
think
it's been a long journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, I talked to you everywhere, but I think Google Plus was our first community.
I remember meeting you at one of the San Diego social media events, and
Yes.
I think I went online and said, "Peg officially gives the best hugs in social media." I don't know if you remember that, but a lot of
I
people
do.
like,
I do.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think we met online first,
no,
and
no,
I was, talking to people, building my community there, but also building Canvas community there.
okay,
And that hashtag is what I used to help me with social searching, like to find people that are talking about things. And that can work for all different kinds of industries. It doesn't have to have love in the name. It was just has to be something that's easy to spell and easy to remember, so people can use it and look at it. So that turned from being, just me using it to people in the community using it. And then I was like convincing people to share graphics that they made, which was kind of hard to do at first, but just to like
mhm,
get people sharing stuff now. And that's the whole goal. Like you want people talking about your thing. If you're an
okay,
attorney, people might not ever post, "I worked with Mitch, who was amazing," but they
right,
also might. It might
right.
not be something they post online, but they could be reading everything that you post. That's,
That is what happens.
yeah,
That is what happens.
I would say
Yeah,
85%. I was just
yeah.
guessing people wouldn't talk about where, it's kind of private talking about your attorney.
Yeah, no, that is what happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So 85 or 90% of people don't even post, right?
Mhm.
They're just reading and looking at stuff. Most people, and when you see this when you're out, if you're at the bank and you're waiting in line, people are just sitting there and they're just like scroll. They're just looking down. Hardly any people are like typing, hardly any people tapping. A lot of people just kind of scrolling and reading. It's sometimes I watch people doing it and I'm just kind of like, oh, can't you just comment on someone's thing or like something? Like just give those people so there's some people
Yeah.
that are creating content like Mitch and me, and we're putting stuff out there. And there are a lot of people that are just reading it. So people might never comment. They might never. So as a community manager, I mean, I was the head of social strategy, but I also was community manager, head of the blog, did all the social. Is small businesses. Everybody gets that. When you're a small business, you don't have, now they're huge. They have marketing. They probably have marketing people to market their marketing. They're
Yes.
huge. They have like 2,000. They're very huge now. But it starts out with a small thing and doing multiple jobs. So the community piece was then, but now even more important to connect with that community. So people are interested in having those conversations, seeing what you're talking about. And a lot of that starts with you responding to comments or sending people messages. You in particular, Mitch, are excellent at networking and sending messages. You sent me a message on Blue Sky like immediately when I had
Yeah.
posted something saying, oh, use this to block these things. And I was like, cool. So I did that. So it's like
That's
looking,
right. Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
It's little things
But
like that
but
maybe you didn't think a lot about, but it's a great connection point. You're like, hey, I'm also here and this is helpful for you, because we've
mm,
both been around the block and been on a lot of new platforms, and every single platform join Blue Sky. Blue Sky is so hot right now. I mean, I thought Threads was going to be the thing, but I think Blue Sky is going to be the thing. What do you think?
I do. I like the open source technology. I like walking my talk and
Hmm.
playing in sandboxes that actually embrace my values and my interest.
Hmm.
And for those reasons, I'm definitely diving headfirst into it. Let me back up a second
Yeah.
because I actually, and I want you to talk about this, I actually enjoy what I'm doing. For me to write a blog post or to use AI to help me flush out issues on a trending news topic and then add my personal twist to it and then put it out there on LinkedIn because that's my process. I'm
Hmm.
busy. I don't have time to write a lot. And to me, it's enjoyable. It's almost like a digital art form. I just
Hmm.
enjoy expressing myself and connecting with people. For people like your friend that's the attorney, a lot of lawyers like to fly below radar, just so you know. They want to be
Yeah.
number three. You don't want to be number one because everyone's visibly gunning for you. And there's a certain mindset there, and I totally get that. I'd rather fly below radar down at the courthouse. Talk to us a little bit when we're talking about building community before we transition over to creating content.
Hmm.
Um, I can tell when somebody's into what they're doing. How
Hmm.
important is it to really develop that mindset where you want to add value, you want to help, you want to enjoy what you're doing? You're posting about things that are of interest to you, for example. Like, for
Right.
example, Peg, my son's a post creative strategist over at VaynerMedia in LA. Okay.
Hmm.
You know, Gary wrote the book on day trading attention
Yep.
and talks about the new algorithms, right? And I've always found that when I'm engaging with people that share the same hobbies, interests, and passions with me, nothing to do with the law, we
Right.
connect, we engage, the community builds.
Hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about, you know, focusing on the interests of your community, the new algorithms, if you think they're out there, how, for example, people can leverage Blue Sky with the new feeds. Let's let you pick your algorithm as opposed to just randomly throwing your hook in the big digital ocean, hoping something bites or something, nibbles on your bait. I mean, there's a lot to digest there.
There really is. I'm not even sure where to start with this.
Yeah.
So
Sorry about that.
that's okay. There's like 8 questions in that one
I know.
question.
I'm
Let me see
sorry.
if I can get in here. So so building something new. So we're on Blue Sky. It's a different platform. It has the open source. And I have to say, I am not a million percent versed on what all the open source means, except for I know
Mhm.
there's no algorithm and you're choosing your things. So there's a lot more free choice. And
Yeah.
I love that the community there is building. And again, you can use hashtags to connect. I still always dive into a hashtag. And there you are. Wait, go back up. You're paddleboarding. You're talking about things that you like. So you live, and this
Right.
tells, just that one picture tells me a lot of things. You live in California, or I mean, I'm even going to say yes, California. I know California, but like Florida
Right.
probably wouldn't be that nice right now. I'm not 100% sure, but
Yeah, you're not going to find me there. But but
you don't want to be Florida man. You're happy being California man.
I'm very happy with being on the West Coast. Here's Rose Wang, the COO of Blue Sky.
Ah,
And I think one of the advantages being early on a platform, Peg, is it allows us to connect with people we
for
might not know to
sure.
connect with. And
Mhm.
I just wanted to show people how clean this platform
Yeah,
looks.
it
I didn't.
it looks it looks very much like Twitter. Let's be honest. I mean, it
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like early uncluttered Twitter. There's
Mhm.
not like, you can see things that are, I like the popular with friends. You can see what your friends like. I love that it has mutuals. I think that's awesome. So if you want to like just connect with content with people who you are following each other, I love that.
I
And
do too.
just people that you're following, which is two different things, because sometimes you follow people, they don't follow you, but you're still interested in their content. So I like how you can like nail it down to what you want to see. I want to see X, and I want to, I personally like to check in with all the people that I'm following, but I am gravitating towards the mutuals because that's an even tighter
Mhm.
connection. Um, I don't send as many direct messages. You do more direct messages. I do love, some people on Instagram will send voice messages, and I'm like, that's so nice, but then I don't do that. When Twitter first, I like it
That's
though.
so
Like
nice, but I don't do that.
I feel I haven't gotten to that point where I
Yeah.
don't know. It's nice, but I only some people, I don't know. It's for me, it's very personal, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, would I be bothering someone if I sent them that? That's what I meant by that. Not
Everyone
like,
would love to get your messages.
oh yeah, right.
Well,
Um,
Peg, I'm seeing some questions, and
yes.
everybody go check out Blue Sky. If you go to
Oh, if you
Peg's
haven't
Peg's
been
pro
there.
go to Peg's profile and click around, and you'll see the different feeds, the different lists. And what she's
Mhm.
talking about is you can pick the algorithm that you are having conversations in. So if you want to have conversations about baking or cats or NFL football, that's all you're going to see in your algorithm, right? If you want to talk
Yeah.
politics or books or live streaming or whatever it may be, you can actually pick your environment, your community. And I think it's
Mhm.
a very enjoyable approach and interesting way to bring out a new platform, right?
It's gonna be interesting to see how people use it, because although people complain about algorithms, in some ways, they show us what we like to see. So TikTok, they're gonna show you the same thing, and they know what you like, and they're gonna keep showing it to you. Pinterest knows exactly what I like. I went gluten-free, like, a year ago, and a lot of times dairy-free, and it only sends me recipes, not that I have ever changed any settings or done anything, but it sends me gluten-free stuff. It does not send me anything that has gluten in it.
Wow. And so you're still active on Pinterest,
I still
big
love
time?
Pinterest, Mitch.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
And
mean
the
you're
I am active on Pinterest,
okay,
and
okay.
the reason that I am is because my blog is really important to me, and Pinterest still brings me a lot of traffic.
Gotcha.
Organic Google search is my number one driver to my website, and Pinterest is number two. And that's because I've been blogging for a really long time. I used to blog weekly, every Monday. There was a post there for a good 10 years, 11 years. And now I'm not, during my book launch, I was again doing weekly things, and I still will keep up because now I have a lot of content that I need to create a lot of like blog posts for all the interviews that I did. So I did like podcast interviews that I'm gonna,
Right.
we'll save that for the content creation part. But in this community building part, it is just important to connect with people and sharing things about yourself. You're not going to go on and only share your business, only share like, social media, this is how to do this, social media, this is how to do that. You share a little bit more about yourself, and it doesn't have to be your personal details, by the way. You can share a small amount. So Mitch likes to
Yeah.
share that he likes coffee in the morning. He likes to share that he gets up early in the morning and that he likes paddleboarding. And that's enough to connect with people. You share little things. Sometimes I like antiques a lot, and my
You.
audience doesn't always necessarily like that. Depends on what it is. So
Right.
I've taken that from just talking about it as much. I use videos to make things. Like if I'm out doing things, I like will relate it to something that like about
Oh,
a small business or something like that. Because people don't necessarily follow me for that. Like I love makeup and hair stuff, but my audience 100% does not care about my skincare routine. They do care about other people's, but I mean, if I posted like what makeup I was wearing on this, guaranteed Sandra, my friend Sandra Salen, who maybe she would be 100% into it. And no one else that follows me would be like, why is she talking about makeup? So there is kind of like
sure.
people are interested in you, but you can't go so far out of what your thing is.
It's a crossover because if I saw you talking about makeup or talking you about antiques, and actually I grew up with a family that loves antiques,
Hmm.
I actually develop a respect for somebody that's passionate about doing something and having a hobby. I might
Yeah.
not be interested in makeup, but I get a kick out of, well, Peg is, and I also am a strong, fanboy of your social media approaches, and it comes together to kind of fulfill that relationship. And in the
Hmm.
last couple of minutes that we have, creating content,
Yes.
videoing while you're out, or the content that you're
Hmm.
talking about, what are some elements or some things, some takeaways that you'd like our community viewers to look at or listen to when creating content? What are some of the things they need to pay attention to create effective content moving forward in 2025?
I think, it's not about everything being perfect anymore. We went through that phase where Instagram, your grid had to be perfect and had to your top 9 had to look fantastic together. The photos had to be perfect. Like all of that's gone. Now you can be really more on the fly. Even now it's popular to have photos that are a little blurry, like the Gen Z, like they're
I
experimenting with
saw that.
real
Yeah.
cameras and they like a little blur to the photos. We don't have to do that. But if you are creating content, a really great way to do it is just use your phone during certain times. You don't have to do it all the time. Definitely don't have to be tied to your phone, but just think about taking video when you're out and about. I was out, gosh, what was it? I don't know. I was out at something last week and it was snowing, and I just stopped in my downtown, which is a very cute little Hallmark New England town. And I stopped and I shot a whole bunch of short little videos that I can use for different things. And I just use this one to like compare it to Gilmore Girls because our little town looks like Stars Hollow on Gilmore Girls, and a lot of people talk
Sure.
about that. So, and where you live in California, you don't really see this kind of environment. Like it
Hmm.
really looks like a postcard for Christmas. Like our tree was up, and there was like so it was beautiful. And so I just took the time. I just took I know it always seems like you're taking a ton, but I was like, I get home and I'm like, that was only 6. But I just take a bunch of like 8 to 10 second videos of things. And then you can put them together at different times and remix them and do different things. So if I was you and I was getting up and going to the beach, you go all the time in the morning. It
Hmm.
looks different every day, even though it's
It
the
does.
sky
Yeah.
and the ocean and the beach. I'm always fascinated with like our backyard. We're like on a golf course. So sometimes we have like misty fog. Sometimes there's like
Mhm.
a beautiful sunset. So it's even looking at the same thing that you look at every day. It's just giving someone a picture into your life, right? You don't have to
Mhm.
share all your personal details because you definitely shouldn't, but you can share these little like snapshots of your life. So you can take little short videos and then put them together in all different kinds of ways. You can even just do, I do a combination. I do a couple photos, I do some videos, and then I just kind of store them away. And then I don't have to create content, every single day. I like to just kind of batch process things. I did a lot of reels for my book launch, and I was doing them ahead of time. And, just once you get into the groove, you can really get into it. So just make yourself you're gonna we're gearing up for Christmas. You do not want to post anything at all, and you're going to be offline. So you could just sorry to hit my mic. You could just create some things and you can schedule them to go out, or you could not post if you don't want to at all. But it's really just easy if you get into the practice of shooting things while you're out doing stuff, or even if you're just at your desk, whatever you're doing, just create some things. It doesn't have to be over thought and overworked. But we didn't get to AI yet. You can go to AI
Hey.
and brainstorm some ideas. Like, you could just tell it exactly what you have. I have some short clips. I want to make a video that's going to talk about my 1 week break from vacation that I'm going to take during Christmas. And I just want to, oh, Chris, you're so nice.
Thanks, Chris.
You could just make it, give the idea to AI and then just say like, and they also, once you work in AI, I'm sure you've probably had shows where you've talked about AI. I don't want to dive that into too deep without like
We're
explaining it, but
no, we're good.
once your AI knows who you are and what you're doing, it's so easy to just put it in there and say, like in my brand voice, my ideal audience is people who this and these are the videos I have. What are 3 ideas that I could use to create a reel or Instagram stories that are going to help whatever your little goal is. And it will shoot back great ideas. If you don't like
Mhm.
those ideas, you can just say, you know what, those aren't on target. Every once in a while, I don't know if this happens to you, I'll have a whole bunch of great AI chats, and then you'll have one that's like a dud. Where it's totally like off of what you're talking about. And you're like, then I try to tell it like 3 times. No, that's not quite right. What I meant was, and if it's like
Mhm.
still off, I will close that one and start
Sure.
over. Do you ever do that?
All the time, and it's just reprompting and trying
Yeah.
things out, and forget about AI. Back in the day before AI, I'd have that happen with blog posts. I'd have that
Yeah.
happen with videos. I'd have that happen with audios. It's like, what in the world was happening here? That is not what I want going out to. But I think what you're saying is give yourself permission to have the mindset where if you are going to be embracing digital to build out your brand, especially for business, to
Mhm.
sell your market, your product, your products and services, to build relationships, give yourself permission to do just that.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to have your products pushed in front of them all day
No.
long, but they do want to build new communities and connections.
Definitely.
And
And
right.
and keeping that connection is important. So when you connect with people, make sure that you are sending them messages, that you are commenting on their posts. Don't just live in your own world. Like
Mm,
some people just stay on their own posts all the time. You have to go to your community's posts and also like their things and connect with people. In the course of doing my book launch, I did a lot of interviews. I think I ended up with like maybe 35 interviews that I did for the book, and I met some really great people who are now friends. Like some people, it was just an interview and it was great. And I appreciated everybody's show that I was on. Some are old friends, like you, Deal Casters had me on their show. Jeff C had me on his show. But then I met a lot of great people.
mhm.
I'm not sure if you know Kinsey Soderberg. She's authentically AI. You would love her. She's
I
in
want to meet her.
Colorado and she talks about AI, and she's so great, and it's really targeted towards women because there's like a bias. It really
Yeah.
hasn't been talked about yet, but she's on the front of that talking about, hey, there's a bias and women don't feel comfortable with AI and they're not using it because there's like this bias, like, well, don't you feel guilty if you use it? Like the same things that like nobody would ask you, Mitch, as a
Right.
busy
Right.
attorney, do you feel guilty using that? You'd be like, what are you talking about? You know?
Interesting, Peg. Interesting. Look,
Mhm.
I have 2 very strong-willed type A successful women in my life. My wife, who's my partner, we met in law school, and my daughter, who's a 6-year lawyer, and both of them put up with 0 of that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And I will tell you what's interesting is, in my legal communities, when I was back in Chicago speaking at the American Bar Association, I was on the AI panel. We talked about bias and ethics and how
Mm,
lawyers need to pay attention to what's being shared with us through different AI platforms on those issues. And
yeah.
gender obviously is a big component of that. I got your back on this, and I want to meet her. And Peg, I don't want to, push you. I mean, you've already gone over, which is fine with
I
me.
wasn't even sure. I
I'll
don't even know what
spend all
time it
day.
is.
I'll spend all day with you. But what I'm getting at is AI is something. It's a tool. I think that you're telling our viewers and listeners. It's a tool that, if it's used properly, it can help them do all the things that you're talking about in the book. Is that a
Mhm.
fair statement?
Yeah, it's definitely a great tool to use with your own brain and your own
Hmm.
goals, but it can help you do things like brainstorm. I use it all the time for video ideas.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just like you have the outline, or you create everything else and you just need some help with a caption. Like it's
It's
a great assistant. It's not going to replace you, yet?
Yeah, that's an interesting comment because it's good. And
Mm,
we use it to come up with open-ended questions to ask clients, opposing
mm,
counsel, picking a jury. We put in community standards, community news, breaking news, the demographics of who's going to be on our jury, and like, what are the 20 top questions I should be asking these people to really
yeah.
get to know them. And I've been doing this a long time. Most of the questions I know, but there'll be 3 or 4 that I haven't thought of,
Mm,
and it's good, right?
mhm.
And I think yesterday I did a post, or on Sunday. What is today? Monday. On Sunday, I did a post. Taylor Swift was wrapping up her multi-billion-dollar successful global tour, and I was thinking to myself, what can we learn as business owners that she did so well that other artists haven't
She
done? She
does
just broke all
everything.
these records,
Yep.
and AI helped me put together a 7-step blog post. Like, if you're a business owner, here's 7 things you can learn from Taylor Swift's multi-billion-dollar tour to build your brand and to create exemplary client experiences, right? And
Yeah.
without AI, I did not have the time to do that because I wanted to watch football yesterday. But it helped me kind of put it together, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what Peg's mentioning. Let me bring up your book one more time, kiddo, because we're almost done. The Art of Small Business Social Media: A Blueprint for Marketing Success, forward by Silicon Valley legend, because of Peg Fitzpatrick, Guy Kawasaki. Get the book, enjoy it. And if you want to connect with Peg, she's over at pegfitzpatrick.com. And this has been fun. I always enjoy seeing you. So I appreciate you coming on the show,
I
Peg.
appreciate you having me. I like time flew by. It seems like it was 5 minutes.
It
So
does. We got through our cups of coffee or tea, and so it's time to get on with our days. But listen, everyone, connect with Peg, get her book. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. Great content. Don't recreate the wheel. Figure out what the experts are recommending in today's fast-paced, short interest, short content driven world right now, and tap into it and leverage it and build your brand in 2025. Peg, thanks for joining me. Thanks everyone for being here, and we'll see this is our last morning coffee show this year, Peg.
Ooh,
We're taking the rest of December off. We've got
perfect.
about 15 shows scheduled for the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of January, everyone. So join us then, and join Peg and yours truly over on Blue Sky. We would love to see you there, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
We gotta run. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.